Hi there everybody, welcome to day 4 of Video Every Day in September. Today I want to talk about yesterday's amazing Taylor Hawkins Tribute Concert. This was the first of the two, the one at Wembley Stadium. There's going to be another one in Los Angeles, and I hope they live stream that one as well. I just want to start by saying that I tuned in a little late here. I had other things to do. I started watching at the beginning of the James Gang performance, and then I was going to go back and watch the first half of the stream after, but it was a 6-hour-long event, and by the time I went back to restart it, I didn't realize they were going to take it down off YouTube so fast, but it was removed. So for clips from the first half of the concert, I had to go back and watch some audience shot stuff on YouTube, unfortunately, because yeah, they took down the stream so fast. The stream was amazing, in great quality, and the audio sounded great, but yeah, I was hoping they'd leave it up. They did not. So there's a couple of performances here and there from the first part of the show that I was still not able to find. There were so many emotional moments during the show, which of course is being put on to celebrate the life of Taylor Hawkins, the drummer of the Foo Fighters. And the Foo Fighters opened the show by coming out, and Dave Grohl does a speech that's made the rounds online. You can find it on YouTube, which starts with the crowd sort of taking over when he, because he was very emotional coming out there, of course. This was his first major public appearance, actually, since the passing of Taylor, but the fans were, they almost wouldn't let him talk because they were just chanting Taylor, Taylor so loud, and it was an amazing moment. But they got right into the show, which, like I said, this is going to be a long night, and it sure was. There was over 6 hours of music here with so many people that meant so much to Dave Grohl and meant so much to the world, and it started with Liam Gallagher, of course, of Oasis fame. He joined the Foo Fighters to do the songs Rock and Roll Star and Live Forever. It was a very fun, energetic way to start the evening. I've only seen clips of the band that included Josh Homme, Chris Chaney, Omar Hakim, and Nile Rodgers that did the 2 David Bowie songs from the Let's Dance album. They did Let's Dance and Modern Love. Of course, Nile Rodgers was co-producer and played guitar and sang some backup vocals and did just a lot of things, a lot of the instruments for that album originally, so it was cool to see them doing those songs in tribute to David Bowie, and of course also to Taylor. I wasn't actually able to find any of the stuff really by the Coattail Riders, so I that's the one set I didn't see. I see that Kesha came out with them, and Chevy Metal. After that, though, they actually got Wolfgang Van Halen out, and I had known that, I think didn't he play bass on one of the Van Halen reunion tours? I knew he also played guitar, but I had no idea that well. He went out and did, of course, his father's songs, On Fire and Hot for Teacher, and just, he's been getting so many accolades online for his amazing performance, and he deserves it. I had no idea that he was that talented. It seems crazy to say that he would give his father, the late great Eddie Van Halen himself, a run for his money, but seriously, the performance was just that good. It blew my mind. Dave Grohl was drumming, and Justin Hawkins was singing on these tracks. Justin Hawkins, of course, no relation to Taylor Hawkins, is the lead singer of The Darkness. They were kind of known as a bit of a one-hit wonder, I think, because they had that I Believe in a Thing Called Love song, but it's a shame that they sort of fell into that category, because maybe it's just me. They probably have lots of stuff in their catalog that I'm just not aware of, but Justin Hawkins blew my mind at this show. He's such an amazing singer, and I'll talk more about him once we get to the Queen portion of the set here. The last thing that I wasn't able to see was the sort of supergroup of Violet Grohl, who's Dave's daughter, Greg Creston, Ellen, Johannes, Chris Chaney, Jason Faulkner, and of course Dave Grohl doing a couple of Jeff Buckley songs. Apparently Taylor Hawkins really liked Jeff Buckley. Didn't get to see that portion of it, but after them was Supergrass. Now, I'm going to be honest, when I read that Supergrass had played here, my first response was, who is that? I've never heard of them. Turns out I had. When they started playing, I recognized their songs, and more than that, I was like, I forgot how great these songs are, particularly the song Alright, which I've heard a million times, but them doing it live, I was like, this is a great song. I never really gave it credit for that. But they did a great set. I've actually watched theirs a couple of times. I guess I'm a Supergrass fan now. That was really cool. And Taylor Hawkins was a major Supergrass fan. He was a major fan and friend of virtually everybody who performed here on this night. And then following that was one of the big moments people have been talking about, the big Them Crooked Vultures reunion. I think this was their first show in about a dozen years, their first performance together. They are, of course, a power trio consisting of Dave Grohl on drums, Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age singing and playing guitar, and then on bass, some guy named John Paul Jones. It's so amazing to see him on stage again and that band together. Many wondered if they'd ever see them together again. They really did one album, right? Didn't they just do one album? Yeah, they've only made one album. Them Crooked Vultures in 2009. I think they did a little bit of touring, but they never really did that second project until now. Of course, they've all been brought back together, unfortunately, through the passing of their friend. I have never known much about the music of Them Crooked Vultures. I enjoyed their set. But yeah, I was just mesmerized watching John Paul Jones on stage, to be honest with you. And then, the Pretenders went on afterwards. Of course, another legendary group. Dave Grohl joined in with them as well. They did Precious, Tattooed Love Boys, and Brass in Pocket. And then there was the James Gang reunion. I am looking online and I am seeing a woeful lack of acknowledgement for how awesome the James Gang reunion was. This was their first performance together in 16 years. It had been known that they were going to reunite this year. They had been doing some recording sessions this year, and it was announced that they are going to play, I think they're advertising it as one last show on November 13th at the VEDSies concert in Columbus, Ohio, but before then they are doing, I think, both of these shows at the Taylor Hawkins Tribute Concert. But this is the original James Gang trio. Jimmy Fox, Joe Walsh, and Dale Peters together again. They did Walk Away, such a great song. They did The Bomber medley, and then they did a really cool version of Funk Number 49, another amazing song, with Dave Grohl. I loved that so much. It was one of the real highlights of the night for me. So yeah, I want to see some love for the James Gang out there. Afterwards, they brought out Mark Ronson and Violet Grohl again, Dave's daughter, alongside Chris Chaney and Justin Faulkner to do the Mark Ronson and Amy Winehouse song, Valerie, such a legendary song, and very trippy to see them do it. Violet did such a great job on that song, didn't she? That was very cool to see. That was one of those moments that all the lighters were up. Oh, one other thing I was going to mention, I think Dave Chappelle did something. I have not been able to find footage of it really, but I know Dave Chappelle was part of this too and talked for a little bit. And then, as if we hadn't had enough superstars already, this is really just when the concert's starting to get really crazy. There's so much more still to come, like I said. It was a 6-hour show. And next, who do they bring out but Lars from Metallica, Lars Ulrich, and then Brian Johnson, of course, famously lead singer of AC/DC. They did Black and Black and Let There Be Rock. And it's always good to see Brian Johnson out there. AC/DC are one of those bands that does an album and tour every 8 years or so and then takes a long break where you don't really hear from them. And we're in one of those periods right now. I mean, the pandemic didn't help things. It's always cool to see Brian Johnson emerge again, and I'm always amazed by how good his voice sounds. Y'all know he's 74 now, and he was hitting some high notes on Back in Black that I swear I didn't hear him hitting on the last AC/DC tour. He was in really good form at this show, looked great as well. That was a cool time. And then Dave Grohl comes out after that and has another little speech where one of the things he says is, with Brian Johnson and Lars Ulrich coming out and doing those songs, this is where most shows would end, but we're not even close. And they were not even close. After that, they brought out one of Taylor's favorite drummers of all time, Stuart Copeland, of course, of The Police, who did 2 songs with the Foo Fighters. So it was the Foo Fighters, but with Stuart Copeland guesting in on drums. And I've seen a lot of fans out there being like, this show was like an audition process. We get to see how cool the Foo Fighters would be with all these different drummers. But I mean, I still say it's a little too soon to be thinking about things like that. But If there is a reality where they are thinking of things like that, Stuart Copeland is an excellent choice. I'm not sure what he's doing in his career right now. I'm not sure if things could be put on hold, but this was a really special moment. They did Next to You, and Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic. And then it was time for the big Rush reunion. Everyone knew this was coming. They saw Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson's name on the posters. It actually did not wind up being their first performance since the passing of Neil Peart just a couple of weeks ago. They, of course, reunited for that South Park 25th anniversary show. So this was actually their second appearance together. They've never really done a Rush show since the untimely passing, of course, of Neil Peart, but it's amazing to see them together again. It is a little weird to see them without that legendary drummer, but just cool to see them on stage in any capacity. Geddy sounds great. Alex and Geddy both look amazing still. They did the overture from 2112, and then they did Working Man, and they finished it out with YYZ. Dave Grohl was on drums for the first couple songs, and then they brought out Omar Hakim to do YYC, and he did an amazing job because that is a intensely complicated song, particularly for drums, so it's not an easy project to tackle. And like I just said with the Foo Fighters, there are people online being like, you gotta get Omar Hakim in and be the new drummer for Rush, he's so good. And then other people say like, oh, it's so not the same without Neil Peart, and both of them are true. But just great to see Rush again. I had to look up what band Omar Hakim, by the way, was in, and the answer that I found out when I looked him up on Wikipedia was all of them. Wikipedia lists him as having worked with Weather Report, David Bowie, Foo Fighters, Sting, Madonna, Dire Straits, Brian Ferry, Journey, Kate Bush, George Benson, Miles Davis, Daft Punk, Mariah Carey, Pussycat Dolls, David Lee Roth, and Celine Dion. So yeah, every band. He's been in all the bands, now Rush. All of them. And then up next, another thing we knew would come. I mean, again, all of these artists were pretty much listed on the poster as that they were going to be coming, except for one major one that I'll get to a little bit later. But it was time for Queen. Of course, Brian May and Roger Taylor coming out with the Foo Fighters and some other special guests to do some songs. Rufus Taylor was with them. That's, of course, Roger's son. But a lot of people mistook him for being Taylor Hawkins' son based on the fact that they look like frighteningly exactly the same. It's absolutely crazy. Whenever the camera would go back to Rufus Taylor, I would do a little bit of a double take. But no, now, Taylor Hawkins was a mentor to Rufus, and they have a very similar drumming style. And I think Taylor Hawkins taught him some things, and I'm sure his dad taught him some things as well. Roger Taylor, alongside Stuart Copeland, like I mentioned earlier, were two of Taylor Hawkins' favorite drummers of all time. They started with We Will Rock You. They had Luke Spiller come out to sing lead on that song, and I was just mesmerized by how I'm like, is this guy the living embodiment of Freddie Mercury or what? But then I felt that way about almost every singer. They brought out so many great singers to sing with Queen for this show, and they all did such a spectacular job. After that, they did I'm in Love with My Car. I've seen some people on the internet kind of roasting them for doing I'm in Love with My Car, saying like, who let Roger sing his car song? But, again, Roger Taylor is a major influence of Taylor Hawkins, so maybe he was really into that song. Maybe that was a song Taylor Hawkins really liked. It did seem a little bit out of place with the other massive hits, but it's always cool to see Roger sing that song. They got Rufus Taylor back on the drums for that song, while Roger, his father, took up the lead. Then they got Justin Hawkins of The Darkness back out to sing Somebody to Love. Again, talk about someone who is like a spitting image and sound alike for Freddie Mercury. Just amazing. And then after that, they brought out someone who's apparently like a TikTok sensation, Sam Ryder, to sing the song Somebody to Love. I wasn't too aware of him. Apparently he came on the scene in the last couple of years, but he, again, did a phenomenal job. They got three separate, just awesome singers to sing with them for this performance. They all did so amazing. And then after that, Brian May did an acoustic solo song, the song that has been kind of like a showstopper for them at their recent shows, he does the acoustic version of the beautiful Freddie Mercury song "Love of My Life" from the Night at the Opera. Always such a touching moment. And Brian May at that point alluded to the fact that they had been at that exact same stadium in 1986 for a gig with Queen, a famous gig with Queen. And then in 1992, of course, Freddie Mercury's tribute concert after he passed was held at Wembley as well. And here they were 30 years later. And wasn't their famous Live Aid performance also at Wembley? I'm not quite sure. I'll have to look that up. Or were they at the Philadelphia one? Let me know in the comments. But yeah, just breathtaking. And then after that, it was time for the Foo Fighters. I assumed this would be it, that the Foo Fighters would close the set with a bunch of their hits, but there was still one more surprise to come. But the Foo Fighters set, of course, incredibly emotional, starting with Times Like These. The clip of Times Like These has been out there everywhere, where Dave Grohl gets extremely emotional trying to sing the first part of the song, the soft part, and it's very sad to watch. It's very moving, and then they get into the hard rockin' part of the song. And then it's such a great energy release there. It was an amazing moment. They had Josh Freese with them for that song, and also for the song All My Life. And like Dave said, they were going to do a bit of a revolving door of drummers thing. He made a joke about how many drum kits there were backstage. Then they did The Pretender with Travis Barker on drums. Travis Barker joined them for 2 songs. They did The Pretender and Monkey Wrench, very special. And then, a runaway for me as one of my favorites of this entire performance was when they did Learn to Fly with Nandy. Nandy is, of course, the girl who Dave Grohl had a little drum off with a few times, I think, and she blew everybody's minds. I think she's 12, maybe 13 years old, and she's probably the coolest person in the world. She's posted a clip of them doing this song the other day, or yesterday, on YouTube, and you gotta watch it. Nandy is just the coolest person in the world, and just an amazing, amazing drummer. And that was such a great, that was one of the most fun moments I thought of the entire show. After that, they bring back out Rufus Taylor to play drums for 2 songs, These Days and Best of You. And again, that is just a spooky moment when the camera goes back to the drums and shows Rufus, because of how much he just looks frighteningly and plays just exactly like Taylor Hawkins. It's so crazy to see that. Yeah, so they did These Days and Best of You. And then, perhaps the biggest surprise of the night, when they bring out Paul McCartney. Now, it had always been in the back of my mind, what if Paul McCartney comes out? I mean, this is Wembley. He has such a long history of performing events with the Foo Fighters and collaborating on projects. But then I was like, there's been no mention of it. And you'd think you'd mention something like, Paul McCartney coming to the show. But no, they kept it a surprise, and it was so cool. And then, what's even cooler than Paul McCartney coming out on stage is Paul McCartney coming out on stage and singing a Beatles song that he'd never done live before. He had Chrissy Hynde out there to help him, and then Omar Hakim was on drums, and they did Oh Darlin' from Abbey Road. I honestly couldn't believe he'd never sang that song live before, but I looked it up and it's true. This was a live debut. I guess one of the reasons he doesn't do it live at his shows is because it's just so high. Paul McCartney is 80 years old now, by the way, but you wouldn't know it from watching him play live. It was so amazing, so moving to see not just him come out to support Taylor Hawkins, but to, again, it's not every day you see Paul McCartney singing a Beatles song live on stage for the first time. And so for the high notes, for the high portions of the song, those little bridges, Chrissy would fill in, and Paul would sing most of the low stuff, and it was just fantastic. One of my favorite songs off Abbey Road. So cool to finally see it live. And then they did a popular favorite, Helter Skelter. Of course, the closest thing to heavy metal that the Beatles ever did, and it was really fitting at this show. Omar stayed on drums for that, and Foo Fighters feat Paul McCartney is always a great combo, and they rocked the house as they always do. But then at the end, after Paul McCartney left the stage, the Foo Fighters finished it off with, there were 3 more songs. They did Aurora with Omar, and then everyone was so moved when they brought out Taylor Hawkins' son, Oliver Shane Hawkins, to join them on none other than My Hero. Wow, that was just one of the most amazing things was you could hear the collective emotion in the audience when they launched into that song. Just a wave of like, oh, like go through the crowd. And I see, again, I'm having trouble putting into words what that moment was like. So special. And then Dave Grohl, just acoustically, as if this night wasn't perfect enough, ends it with an acoustic version of Everlong. Just by himself on stage, says a thank you to Taylor Hawkins' family for coming out that night and being with them for the concert, and for all the performers, and all the performers came back out onto the stage. And my favorite moment is the cameras going through all of the performers, and you get to just like arm in arm, you've got Paul McCartney next to Geddy Lee, next to John Paul Jones. When are we going to see that again? That was absolutely amazing. One of the greatest collections of rock stars to come out for an event like this in recent memory, and all in support of the great drummer and, by all accounts, great guy, Taylor Hawkins. Thanks so much for watching this video. I wish that live stream was still up there so I could keep watching it. Thanks for watching. Check out the description for links to the channels for all my other wonderful fellow VEDSies who are also making a video every day this month. Like this video if you like, subscribe to my channel if you've been enjoying my videos, and you can ring the notification bell too if you want to be notified whenever I upload a new video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you guys again tomorrow, and like I said, every day for the rest of this month.